lag going on right now, but this is the NBA DFS Core Pick video for today, January 19th. Obviously, doing a live stream today, so whether you're watching it live or on replay, welcome in, first of all. But if you have any questions throughout the live stream, feel free to leave them in the chat. If you're watching on replay, feel free to leave them down in the comments, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. But pretty much what we're going to be doing today, going through a quick little recap of yesterday's picks. We'll be talking about some injuries and play for tonight's games. There is a 4-game main slate overall, so it should be a pretty interesting one. And then going over to both DraftKings and FanDuel and talking about my core picks for today. If we have some time after that, might look a little bit at prize picks as well, just depending on how many people are up in the chat and everything else like that as well. But without further ado, we'll get started with the recap of yesterday's picks. Just going to run down like real quick. So on the DraftKings side, we had De'Aaron Fox at point guard. He was a hit. He was at 45.75 points. I do believe he was $8,300. We were looking for 42 points out of him. Then we had, I don't have this one up here in front of me. Karis LeVert was at shooting guard. I believe he is $5,100 on DraftKings. So obviously on, so he was a good hit as well. And then small forward was kind of the issue on both sides. We played Terrence Mann on both sides. He ended up playing only 26 minutes, 1 for 5 shooting from the field. Only ended up with, I believe, hold on, let me see if this will load real quick. So I'm just trying to pull this up here real quick as well. Let's see. So Terrence Mann on the DraftKings side only got to 11.75 points, played 26 minutes, 1 for 5 shooting from the field, was a blowout. And it looks like the camera disappeared for whatever reason. So let me see what's going on here. So it looks like we're back now. For whatever reason, the camera decided to stop working on the laptop, but we are talking about the core picks from yesterday, a recap still. So Terrence Mann got to 11.75 points. He was a miss. Like I was mentioning, 26 minutes, 1 for 5 shooting from the field. That game ended up being a blowout. So just kind of unfortunate there. He was playing monster minutes, playing reasonably well. And obviously there was no Paul George, no Kawhi Leonard yesterday. So you would expect him to take that step up. If he played Norman Powell or like Zubac instead, did pretty well there. Then, kind of on that Clippers action as well, we had Marcus Morris at $4,800, looking for 24.7, got to 17, so he was a miss. Only played 23 minutes, 3 for 14 shooting from the field, and the game was a blowout, obviously. So, just kind of unfortunate day for him. If he makes half his shots, then he's obviously a guy that would have been a hit, probably would have played a couple more minutes too, since the game would have been a little bit more competitive. Then at center, we had Naz Reid, $4,800, got 24 points, or we were looking for 24.7, got to 28.25. He was a hit. Probably would have been an even bigger hit if he didn't get into foul trouble in that second half yesterday. So 3 out of 5 on the DraftKings side. If you had some other decent plays, still had a decent chance of cashing yesterday. On the FanDuel side, we had De'Aaron Fox once again, $8,300, looking for 42 points down, got to 44.6, so he was a hit as well. Then on shooting guard, we had Karis LeVert once again, $5,200, looking for 26 points down, got to 38.8 on the FanDuel side, so he was hit there as well. Once again, we had Terrence Mann, $5,700 on FanDuel as well. Obviously looking for 29 points down, got to 10.1. He was a miss. Like I mentioned on DraftKings, 26 minutes, 1 for 5 shooting from the field. The game was a blowout. Just not anything going right for him yesterday. And then another guy that didn't really have much go right yesterday was Aaron Gordon. We played him $6,400. Looking for 32 points. I only got to 18.1. He was a mess, only played 29 minutes, and mainly just scored the ball yesterday. Not much in terms of rebounds or assists or anything else like that. So just kind of a down, unfortunate day for him overall. And then at center, we had Naz Reid once again, $5,200. Looking for 26 points. I got to 29.6, so he was a hit on the FanDuel side as well. So 3 out of 5 on the FanDuel side. If you had some other decent plays, you still had a decent chance of cashing yesterday. Just might have been a little bit more difficult overall. My main line myself, I played LaMelo Ball, and obviously he got injured, so that line was kind of dead by the time that happened. So just kind of a fortunate day on the FanDuel side. DraftKings was about a break-even day just because I had some LaMelo Ball exposure over there as well. But hopefully you guys had a little bit better luck. But with that being said, we'll get moved over into the injuries and play for tonight's slate. For the Chicago Bulls, and with that being said, we'll touch on the 2 o'clock Eastern game, I believe it is 2 or 3 o'clock Eastern game, excuse me. And that game's over in France. It's a homecoming game for Killian Hayes. If you don't know, he grew up in France. But For the Chicago Bulls side, Lonzo Ball and Javonte Green out once again. They do get DeMar DeRozan back in this game. Then for the Detroit Pistons, Marvin Bagley's out. Nerlens Noel, Corey Joseph, Jalen Duran all listed as questionable. And then Hamidou Diallo listed as probable. So kind of the big one we're looking here is Jalen Duran if you're playing the single game slate or like an all-day slate. If he plays, he'll be in play. If he doesn't end up playing, Isaiah Stewart's going to look pretty good. And Sadiq Bey probably enters that starting line once again. Then for the Golden State Warriors, then we move over to the main slate with the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics starting at 7:30 Eastern time. So we're going to have that and then 8 o'clock game, then 2 later games. So for the Golden State Warriors, we got JaMychal Green, Andre Iguodala, Jonathan Kuminga, and James Wiseman all out once again. But their starters are pretty much back and intact. You can kind of take shots on any of these guys tonight, whether it's Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. Wiggins is probably the one with the least exposure I'll have. Draymond Green definitely looking pretty good as of late. Looney, you can take some shots on, especially against Boston. And then for the Celtics, Danilo Gallinari is out and Jaylen Brown listed as questionable today. Obviously, he's missed a couple games. We'll see if he's back tonight or not. Obviously, if he is back, I expect him to be limited a little bit, maybe 32-minute max tonight. Then for the Toronto Raptors, they just have Delano Banton listed as questionable. We'll see if he plays or not, but he just recently called up from the G League, so I don't really expect him to be in the rotation either way. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, Jordan McLaughlin, Karl Anthony Towns both out once again. Austin Rivers is questionable to play. He missed last night. Same thing with Rudy Gobert. And I don't expect Rudy Gobert to play tonight. Austin Rivers is really up in the air, but not anybody we're chasing for DFS purposes anyways. Then we move down to the Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving is probable to play tonight after missing the last game with some calf soreness. Just have to monitor that throughout the day. If we do get news that he's going to miss for some reason, then obviously like Seth Curry would look a little bit better overall, as well as like Ben Simmons, a couple other guys as well. But Kyrie Irving, you can play him tonight on tonight's slate as long as he's good to go. Can take some shots on this Nets team as well. Then for the Phoenix Suns, they are without Devin Booker, Jay Crowder, Josh Okogie, Cam Payne, and Landry Shamet tonight. So Landry Shamet and Josh Okogie are the two newest ones there. Chris Paul is listed as questionable to play. We'll see if he plays. And then if he does play, he's been dealing with that hip injury. So we'll see how many minutes he's able to play tonight if he does end up playing. If he doesn't play, then it'll be very interesting to see what the starting lineup looks like with Dwayne Washington start once again. Even though he was a DMP coach's decision last time out, would it be Saban Lee? Would it be Damian Lee in that starting lineup? So some potential value on this Phoenix Suns team overall. They do get Cam Johnson back tonight, who's been out since meniscus surgery. So probably limited to probably like 20 minutes tonight, I would guess. But if we get any other news on that, I will update it down in the comments as well. And then for the Philadelphia 76ers, they're all the way healthy at this point in time. Portland Trailblazers have Justice Winslow out tonight, and then Gary Payton and Joseph Nurkic listed as probable to play tonight. So not too much in terms of the injury rundown for today. 4 games, obviously. Just a quick little rundown. Not too much that we're watching throughout the day. Obviously, if like Joseph Nurkic would end up getting ruled out, Drew Eubanks would look better. Chris Paul is going to make a little bit of a difference, as well as Jaylen Brown, but those are the main ones. Obviously, you can throw Rudy Gobert in that bucket as well, but I do expect him to miss once again today. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to DraftKings and talk about my core picks for today. So let me just get the injuries off the screen since I have to do that with the stream as opposed to the pre-recorded videos I'm used to doing. So bringing DraftKings up right now. And in terms of DraftKings, the point guard position, we have Fred VanVleet at $8,100. Guy that's been playing extremely, extremely well once again as of late. Goes against Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. Should be a pretty advantageous matchup as well. $8,100, you're looking for 41.7, averaging 38.5 on the season. But I do have him projected for 41 points tonight. Definitely has some upside for more as well. Then at shooting guard, we're going to go with Damian Lee, who's had a pretty strong assist game the last time out. If there's no Chris Paul, once again, we have no Landry Shamet. Makes it a lot easier for Damian Lee to step into some minutes, a little bit of usage, a couple of shots, a couple of assists. Could look pretty good overall in that fashion. So currently have him projected for 24 points. Obviously looking for 23 out of him. Does have some upside for more, especially if Chris Paul were to miss once again tonight. Then small forward, we're going with Josh Hart. And he's $4,900, which is extremely, extremely low for him. Looking for 24, 25 points out. He's averaging 28.5 so far on the season. Still playing decent sized minutes. Hasn't been doing too much on offense lately. That's obviously why his price tag has dropped. Not the greatest in recent games, but I do like taking a shot on him today on a 4-game main slate. A good price tag, a pay down spot overall for him. Currently, I'm projected for about 25, 26 points. Does have that 30-point upside if he's able to find his shot once again today. Be a little bit involved in terms of rebounds, assists, everything else like that, because he is one of those guys that is pretty good at doing just a little bit of everything. And then speaking of guys that are good at doing just a little bit of everything, we're going to go to Kyle Anderson at power forward, $5,600. Looking for 28 points out. He's averaging about 24 so far in the season. Obviously, he was coming off the bench early on in the year, dealt with some injuries as well, but playing extremely, extremely well as of late. Playing about 32 minutes a game, been pretty involved in the offense, especially in terms of running the offense as of late. Had a triple double 2 games ago, almost had another triple double last night. So looking pretty good overall. Currently, I'm projecting 29, 30 points tonight, but definitely offers a ton of upside for more once again. And then at center, pretty obvious one today. It's Naz Reid. As long as Rudy Gobert is not playing, he's $4,600, which is actually cheaper than yesterday. Looking for 23 points out. He's averaging 21 on the season. Currently, I'm projected for 27 tonight. If he stays out of foul trouble, if he's out there, he doesn't get hurt or anything else like that, he's going to look really good and does have some upside for more as well. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed here on the DraftKings side, you have $22,200 remaining, $7,400 per player. So you still have the ability to pay up for a star player if that's something you want to do with like a Joel Embiid, maybe Jason Tatum if Jaylen Brown doesn't end up playing. Damian Lillard is going to be a very popular one, I would believe, or at least popular in my mind, just because he's been so hot as of late. It's hard not to play him. And it's a pretty good matchup tonight against, the Philadelphia 76ers. Should be a pretty back and forth game as well. But then, yeah, excuse me. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel, talk about my core picks over there. So I'm going to stop sharing the DraftKings screen. We'll bring up the FanDuel screen real quick. And you're going to see some similarities between the two sites, which honestly isn't the craziest thing in the world on a 4-game main slate overall. Fred VanVleet is still our point guard. He's $7,900, looking for 39, 40 points time. He's averaging 38 so far on the season. Everything I said on the DraftKings side still applies. An advantageous matchup tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's been playing extremely well as of late, been playing big minutes once again. Seems to have that back injury quite behind him, even though it's only been a couple days, but he showed out in big ways since then, so I don't really have any concerns with him. Currently, I'm projected for 40, 41 points tonight on the FanDuel side, but definitely has some upside for more as we've seen in recent games. Shooting guard, going to go with Damian Lee once again, $4,800. Reasonable price tag here, looking for 24 points down. He's averaging only 16 on the season, but obviously there's a ton of injuries once again for the Phoenix Suns tonight. Currently having projected for 24 points. Obviously looks a little bit better. Chris Paul's out once again. Maybe gets to start at that point guard position. Maybe he comes off the bench and just looks pretty good once again. Getting a couple extra shots, assists, everything else like that as well. Then small forward, we're going to go with Anthony Edwards. Not anybody really that stood out to me at the small forward position. I do like Scotty Barnes quite a bit, but his price tag keeps going up and up and up. But I do like him as a reasonable play on tonight's slate as well. Anthony Edwards at $8,700. Looking for 43, 44 points down. He's averaging 41 on the season. If this is a back and forth game, maybe it is against Toronto. If Toronto could blow out against the Timberwolves too, it just kind of depends on how this Timberwolves offense rolls tonight. But if they remain competitive in this game, Anthony Edwards is probably going to be a big reason why. Currently have him projected for about 44, 45 points tonight. Then at power forward, there was another spot I didn't feel like the greatest about. I do like Ben Simmons, especially like if Kyrie Irving were to miss a game. Otherwise, I do like him as a GPP play. Kyle Anderson's a little bit more expensive on the FanDuel side at $6,500. He's a GPP play as well. So I kind of just ended up on Jeremy Grant at $6,700. No, last time we played him didn't end up the best, but it wasn't the worst at the same time. $6,700 looking for 33, 34 points on. That's essentially what he's averaging on the season so far. Should be a pretty back and forth game tonight with the Philadelphia 76ers and the Portland Trailblazers overall. So if he's out there playing the big minutes once again, maybe Joseph Nurkic misses and he ends up getting a little bit of center run as well. Could benefit him as well in terms of rebounds and stuff like that. But currently I'm projected for about 33, 34 points tonight. So pretty much in line with what we're looking for. And then last but not least, at that center position, we're going with Naz Reid, who is $200 cheaper on the FanDuel side as well today. Looking for 25 points. He's averaging 21 on the season. If Rudy Gobert doesn't play once again tonight, he's going to look really good. Currently, I'm projected for 27 points. Does have some upside for more as well, especially if he stays out of foul trouble that he did get into in the second half yesterday. But that's pretty much what I got in terms of core picks, injuries, and everything else like that. If anybody watching does have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat or down in the comments if you're watching our replay. We do appreciate everybody that did tune in for the live stream. Going to go over to Prize Picks real quick since we do have a couple people in here, and just going to pull up some of the Prize Pick fantasy scores for today to kind of see what's up there at this point in time. No guarantees about what's up there since there's the couple later games today, but we can take a look at the early game with the Bulls and the Pistons and hopefully some of the other early games as well. And as I mentioned before on Prize Picks, I do like doing the fantasy scores just because I project them on a daily basis as opposed to some of the other ones, but I'm not opposed to betting points, rebounds, assists, points plus rebounds plus assists, 3-pointers made, steals. I'll bet every once in a while, turnovers I'll bet sometimes. The ones that I particularly don't recommend betting are the free throws made just because there's a lot of volatility to that. It means a guy's got to get fouled. He's going to go to the free throw line and shoot free throws. And as much as we like to think that guys get to the free throw line quite a bit, there's still a lot of variance to that as well. Sometimes it also depends on what referees are reffing the game as well. So I'm going to get rid of FanDuel here, bring up the Prize Pick screen. And if anybody is new to this and has not joined already, I can bring up my code here, see if it actually loads or not. And we'll copy this. I'll throw it in the chat as well. So if you use this code, first of all, it's going to benefit you. It's going to, I believe, deposit match up to $25 in promo credits if you do $25 or more, and then also get a little bit of benefit from it too as well. PrizePicks is not an official sponsor at this point in time, but do like referencing them quite a bit. So looking at some of the fantasy scores that we do see so far. So we got DeMar DeRozan at 39.5. He is coming off an injury. He may be on a potential minutes limit. You could bet the under on this one. It would be a reasonable under. Zach LaVine, maybe potentially over. He's been pretty well as of late. Bojan's right projected around this, or I would have him right around that. If I did do a ton of projections for this game, I did throw in a single game slate earlier today, but Bojan I'd have right around 30-31. Jaden Ivey would be right around 28. So those lines are a little bit tighter. Zach LaVine probably about 40-ish, 41. So you could bet the over on him. DeMar DeRozan I'd have projected 37, 36. So I do like the under on him. Nikolai Vucevic, you could bet the over. This one's probably a little bit tighter. Probably haven't projected around 40, 41 today. Killian Hayes right around 31, 32. So he's right in line with that as well. Patrick Williams is always right around 22. So don't really feel too comfortable betting him. Isaiah Stewart at 24.5. You could bet the over if we did get news that Jalen Duran was going to be out tonight. Wouldn't mind him in that case. He probably would project around 29 points in that case. Maybe has some upside for more. DeSomu's kind of been up and down, so I don't really like betting on him personally, but that is my opinion. Caruso's right in line with this most games. Then we get down to like Jordan Poole. I have him projected for 29 tonight. He's at 28. That's not something I'm comfortable betting. Jason Tatum, I have projected for 52, 53, which is pretty much in line with this. A lot of that does depend on if Jaylen Brown plays or not. Steph Curry, you could potentially bet the over at 42.5. I don't remember how much he got the last game. 48.5. I think I have him projected for 47 tonight. Obviously, a lot depends if this game remains competitive or not. Marcus Smart's at 28. I have him projected for about 29-30. So that one's a little bit too tight for me. Klay Thompson, let me see what he did last time. So 35.5. So he's been pretty much the same guy since everybody's come back. I currently have him projected for about 35, 36 anyways. So 30.5, I don't mind for Klay Thompson if we were going to do one. Wouldn't mind putting him in there. Then let's see, since it did change the format on my screen, Al Horford at 24.5. I got him at 25. So that one's a little bit too tight for me as well. Draymond Green, 27.5. I have him projected about 30. So you could go there if you want to. The only thing with Draymond Green is every once in a while you get those bad games, the down games, or the games that he gets ejected. So there is that risk when you do bet on Draymond Green. So if you're playing him, I would definitely recommend flexing him. Andrew Wiggins at 27.5. I did like it for a couple of games. He was getting there, and then he just kind of fell on his face a little bit as of late. Kevon Looney is probably pretty much in line, unless he gets bigger minutes tonight against Boston, which is very much in play. Fred VanVleet in 37.5. Obviously, the past two games we've seen be 62, 59. I currently am projected for 40, 41-ish for FanDuel, which would be the same scoring as Prize Picks. So you can definitely bet him tonight if you want to do so. Pretty good matchup against Minnesota as well. Pascal Siakam would be an interesting one as well. Currently I'm projected about 46. Scotty Barnes at 33.5. I still like Scotty Barnes quite a bit. He's been over 40 the last 4 games, and I believe it's even like 5 out of the last 6 games too. So I don't mind betting Scotty Barnes over there at all. And just so you know, I'm going through these the same as you guys are going through these. I didn't look at these too much ahead of time. Joel Embiid at 54.5. Currently, I'm projected for like 56, 57. So he's pretty tight there. Damian Lillard at 47.5. He's been over 50 points like 6 out of his last 8 games. I wouldn't mind betting that. That would be another one to consider. So I'm just clicking the more as we talk here as well. So we have 3 so far that I feel reasonably well about. James Harden, a little bit up and down there. Obviously, he was doing pretty well, and then the last game just kind of bombed. So not sure what to make of that. Maybe maybe it's a day that we sit off of him. Jeremy Grant at 30. Currently, I'm projected for 33, 34. As you see with this 30, he's done it 4 out of the past 5 games. Typically, he's averaging that 33.8. So he'd be another guy to consider as well. That game should be back and forth. Tobias Harris at 28, have him currently projected for about 29. Anthony Simons, 29, have him projected for 29, 30. Tyrese Maxey, just in that bench role, it's really hard to project. There's a lot of variance to him. Nurkic, with coming off that calf injury, if he does have any type of minutes limit, I would not want to bet him. PJ Tucker, 10.5 is so low. But you see these game logs now, and it's like, some games he's only playing 24, 26 minutes, and his fantasy points per minute are just terrible as of late. Josh Hart, if you want to take the chance at 24.5, you can do that. I'd have him projected, about 24. I have 26. Kyrie Irving, 45.5 is not a bad number without Kevin Durant, but he hasn't really played that well without Kevin Durant. Coming off the calf injury, don't really want to bet that. I almost bet the under on the points the last time, but he got ruled out anyways. Ben Simmons at 32.5, you could definitely look at because he takes that bigger step up with no Kevin Durant. He's done it 3 out of the past 4 games. If you want to go there, you can definitely go there. Mikal Bridges, still a bigger factor tonight. I like him a little bit better. Chris Paul misses once again. Nick Claxton's been block. This dude's had like 3 or more blocks pretty much like every game in the last 10 games, which in this format really favors you. But we do see 2 games with 33 there, so it's a little bit more risky than we'd like to see. Torrey Craig, don't really know what his role is going to be with Cam Johnson back, even if Cam Johnson only plays 20 minutes. Royce O'Neal, we saw last game just kind of bomb, so not really chasing him today. If I was looking at fantasy scores today, these would be the ones, at least the 4 that I'd be looking at. You could also put DeMar DeRozan under in there as well. I'm not particularly putting this one down myself, but these would be the 5 that I would be looking at in general. Klay Thompson over 30.5, Scotty Barnes over 33.5, Damian Lillard over 47.5, Jeremy Grant over 30 fantasy points, and DeMar DeRozan under 39.5. Those would be 5 to look at. If you're playing 5, it automatically makes it a flex play. And let's just say we put $5 down, we'd win 10 times that, $50 if all these were to hit. But that's pretty much what I got in terms of the fantasy points for Prize Picks. We can take a look around to see if there is anything else that stands out in terms of like 3-pointers made or anything else like that. Killian Hayes at 1.5 kind of strikes me just because he's not a big 3-point shooter, but he's been taking a couple more as of late, it looks like. Then let's see. Patrick Williams at 1.5. Is he taking more threes all of a sudden lately? Kind of. So probably don't want to take him. Ayudosomo is one that's interesting to bet the under, but then all he has to do is make one for it to not pay off. Let's see where we're at. Fred VanVleet could be an interesting one at 3, as he's been shooting that pretty hot as of late, but there is some risk to that as well. James Harden's a guy that I typically like looking at the 3-pointers as well. Obviously, the down game the last time out, but 3 times before that at 2.5 looks pretty good against Portland. Not the greatest defensive team in the world, but not the worst either. Damian Lillard is at 4. He's been getting there, but that's a little bit too heavy a line for me personally. If anybody does have any DFS questions, Prize Pick questions, or anything else like that, feel free to leave them in the chat or down in the comments if you're watching our replay. Just kind of going through a little bit of this myself personally. Mikal Bridges, I look at 1.5 too. So he's pretty much been at 1 lately. He's not taking more threes with everybody out as well. So personally, I like going fantasy score first, then 3-pointers made. We can look through some assists. We can look through some rebounds as well. See if any of these assist numbers do stand out right away. Killian Hayes at 7. Nah, it seems like a big number though too. Nothing too crazy here. I know one of the people last time we talked a little bit of price picks, like James Harden at 10.5. Obviously, didn't pay off the last time, but on average, he's getting there. So that could be one to look at. Should be a pretty back and forth matchup once again tonight. Feel like I've said that for that game a ton of times. Ben Simmons is 7.5. Let's see what he's been without Kevin Durant. So 11, 13, 7, 10. So he's got there 3 out of the last 4 times. I don't think Kyrie Irving's passing the ball anymore without Durant, but he's hit the over the last 3 games. So that is something to consider. And then let's check out rebounds real quick. Nothing that's standing out completely here. Isaiah Stewart would be a decent one, in my opinion, if Jalen Duran doesn't play today at 8 rebounds. I would assume that they try to pull his prop pretty quickly in that case, though. So you just have to be right on top of it. Let's see what else we got here that really stands out. Scotty Barnes has been getting a lot of rebounds as of late, too. So 7.5. 13-1, the 12-1. So still some risk there as well. Joel Embiid at 10. That could be a pretty good one as well. Obviously, there's a couple down games in there, but going against Portland, especially if Joseph Nurkic ended up out for whatever reason, he looked pretty good in terms of rebounds. Joseph Nurkic at 9.5 was one that I liked quite a bit the last time as well. He's been over that more times than not this season. And let's see what else we got here. Andre, I think would be a good one against Nick Claxton because like Claxton and the Nets don't rebound the ball the greatest, but we do have their one kind of down one there. If you want to take a shot on this, you can do it. There is some risk if the game ends up being a blowout as well that maybe Aiden doesn't play quite as many minutes. So that is something to consider there, but I don't mind him at all. And then let's just take one quick look at points and see if anything stands out and then try to get it out of here at that point in time. DeMar DeRozan at 25.5 points. If you don't want to bet the under on the fantasy score, you could bet the under on his points as well. 25.5 is quite a bit. I know the Pistons are the greatest team in the world. They're not great defensively either, but it's probably on some type of minutes limit today either way. And there's the potential of a blowout as well. Let's see. Not really feeling any of these other ones for the Bulls and Pistons game. Let's see what else we got. God, 32.5 feels like so much for Tatum, especially if Jalen Green plays. Maybe you bet the under on that, but obviously coming off the 51-point game, big stepping stone there. Let's see. Quick. I know Fred VanVleet's been shooting the ball pretty well. Is his point total 19.5 is not bad if he keeps shooting the ball the way he's been as of late. Obviously, you have some risk there as well. Pascal Siakam at 24.5 looks pretty good as well, even though he's not hit it the past 3 games. But before that, he's been hitting it pretty well. So maybe he gets between Fred VanVleet and Siakam, it kind of evens out overall. That's kind of up to you thing at that point in time. Mainly, I'm looking at the fantasy scores just because that's what I'm the most comfortable with. It's what I do on the daily basis. But there's some other options out there available as well. I'm not too much in terms of the points department that really gets me excited, really gets me. Kyrie Irving, 29.5, you could definitely bet the under. I believe it was 30.5 the last time where I was going to bet the under, and then he got ruled out anyways. Ben Simmons scoring the ball anymore without Kevin Durant. Not really. He did get the over the last time, but not too involved on offense overall. But that's pretty much what I'm seeing there as of right now. I probably look at the 5 that I have in there that I talked a little bit before, which would mainly be for the fantasy scores. Klay Thompson over 30.5, Scotty Barnes over 33.5, Damian Lillard over 47.5, Jeremy Grant over 30, and DeMar DeRozan under 39.5. But that's pretty much where I'm at this point in time. Been going for about a half hour here. If anybody does have any last minute questions, feel free to throw them in. Otherwise, I'd just like to thank everybody that did tune in for today. If you missed a little bit of the stream, you can go back and watch it for the DFS stuff. Did, the second half or the last 10 minutes or whatever, talking some prize picks, but do appreciate everybody that tuned in, whether you're watching live or on replay. Once again, if you have any comments at all, feel free to leave them in the chat or down in the comments if you're watching this video on replay. And if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing. I definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community here at Coach Craig Sports, mainly focused on DFS at this point in time. It is NBA DFS, talking some NBA prize picks. Going to be doing some NFL draft content as well, if that's something you're into in the coming weeks. And then if y'all haven't already done so, or I should rephrase that. And then if you are a new or current subscriber who's yet to do so, also be sure to hit that notification bell down below. It's going to let you know every time I post up a new video, go live for a live stream or anything else like that, so that you won't miss out on any of the content. But as always, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments, over on Twitter at CoachCraigSport, on Patreon at patreon.com/CoachCraigSports. Definitely be sure to check that out for some more NBA DFS as well. But with that being said, that's pretty much all I have for today's video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. And then last but not least, special little shout out to each and every one of you tuning in. Do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to check out this video, the live stream, if you're watching it during the live stream or if you're watching it on a replay. Definitely means a lot to me, and I hope each and every one of you has a great rest of your day.